You're about to learn a 3-step process that will transform your shop. And it doesn't involve any gimmicks or any fancy marketing. I'll even show you how to use it to identify if a menu item will be profitable before you start to sell it. This process has helped me at my shop cut costs, boost profits, and even increase food quality. And once you start to use it and integrate it into your everyday processes, it will completely change the way that you look at cost of goods sold. But the best part of all of this is it's easier to do than you think. So let's get started. Step 1 is identify. So let's talk a little bit real quick about how cost of goods sold is traditionally looked at in the restaurant industry. It's normally, you look at last month, last quarter, last year, and you say, okay, what was my starting inventory? I want to add anything I purchased and subtract my ending inventory. The problem with that number is it's already done. There's no way to look forward other than to say, we'll probably be right around there next month, unless sales go up, unless sales go down, unless. I tend to look at it a little bit differently. Not only do I want to know the past, I want to know how I did, because that is just accounting. That's how accounting works. But I also want to know how I'm going to do. I want to know that the way that I'm building my recipes isn't going to break the bank. I want to know that I'm going to make money when I sell something, not lose money when I sell something. And so I break cost of goods down into a per item cost of goods. The idea is still the same. The things that you count are still the same. Everything that goes into making that menu item, it all is the same, except it's broken all the way down into one single item. So if I'm making a flavored latte, my flavored latte recipe is a cup, a lid, I've got my shots of espresso in there, I've got milk in there, and I have the flavor in there. And then I have that cost of goods for every single size that I sell, because a 16-ounce cup costs less than a 20-ounce cup, because 2 shots of espresso costs less than 3 or 4. So you have to break it down per size and per item. Yes, I understand that that sounds tedious. The good news is you only really have to do it once if you set it up right. There's a couple of different ways to go about this. A lot of people do it by hand. I don't recommend that, because by hand is easy to mess up, easy to lose, let's consider that old faithful. It's the way that it used to be done because it had to be. Then came Excel. People have built very intricate Excel spreadsheets to manage this for them. And each new item becomes a new entry in their Excel spreadsheet, and they've built it however makes sense to them, which is fine. If that's the route you want to go, then that's great. There's examples that you can get online and things like that. I'm actually going to use Boost Back Office. It makes it very, very easy to manage all of this once you get your ingredients in there. And so in just a second, I'll show you how to calculate per item cost of goods, and we're going to do it in Boost. You want to do this for every single one of your menu items. And I know that can sound daunting. If, like me at my shop, we have over 100 items in various sizes for most of them, it's a lot. Boost makes it easy. Utilize technology. Even if I was doing this manually, it is that important. So let's calculate cost of goods sold for a flavored latte. Here's our flavored latte recipe. You can see pretty quickly that it's broken down by ingredient. Each row is a different ingredient, and then each column is a different size. So I have 3 sizes for this one, and I have these ingredients that go into the various sizes. What I really want you to focus on here is how every single ingredient has its own cost. The good news is that Boost makes it easy to determine this number, and it will change it as the price of things change in the system, but it does it for every single one. So 1 shot is 19 cents, 8 ounces of milk is 17 cents, and so on and so on and so on. And each size gets a total cost. So the small flavored latte, cup and lid included, costs us 67 cents. Let's go over real quick to how we do ingredients in Boost to get to this number. So we'll go over and look at espresso. So if I come over to ingredients, and I come up here and I type in espresso. Here, you can see that we have an ingredient called espresso and we measure it by shot. That's an arbitrary amount, arguably. It depends on how our machine is calibrated and how it grinds and things like that. But we worked it out. Based on our machine settings, there's about 320 shots per 5-pound bag. So what Boost does is it says, okay, you have to order one 5-pound bag and it costs you $60. And that's where we get the 19 cents per shot. You put it in here once, you can update the price when you go to order new. If the price goes up or down, you can click on it right on that screen and it does the calculations for you. The end goal is that you have a recipe that is broken down into sizes, if there are sizes, and ingredients, each individual ingredient with its own cost of goods. Because that gives you the insight that you need to move to step 2. Step 2 is investigate. Once you've identified the ingredients that go into a recipe and the cost of each ingredient, you want to investigate, are there any other options that I have to lower the cost of goods for that recipe? So for each and every ingredient, you have to ask yourself a few questions. The first question is, if I buy more of this, can I get a discount? A lot of suppliers will give a bulk discount, whether it's in a single order, so if I buy more right now, will you give me a discount? Or a guarantee of orders in the future. You can go to a distributor and say, if I guarantee that I will buy this much over the next 12 months, what kind of a discount can you give me? And so those are 2 ways to use amount to your benefit. The next one is source. Where am I getting this from? This one is something that people overlook, whether it's due to loyalty or due to not knowing what else is out there or just lack of time to go find more places that could sell this. And each one of those has different things that you have to do to overcome it. One, loyalty, that's great. If you find it cheaper elsewhere, go to the place you're loyal to and say, hey, I've been a great customer for X number of months, years, whatever, but I found this cheaper in this other place. Will you beat that price? And notice I say beat, not match, because they may say, yes, we can beat it. Or they may say we can match it, or they might just say no. And then you have to consider, is my loyalty worth it to pay more to this place? The next thing is not have enough time. And on this one, I totally get it. But can you find 20 minutes a day to go try to find ways to save money, which will then directly impact your bottom line? And the third one is not knowing where the places are. Part of this is research. You can go search for, where can I buy this? Part of it can be as easy as going and searching through Facebook groups for owners of restaurants like yours. You can also go to the manufacturer. Reach out to the manufacturer and say, hey, I'm looking for a new distributor for X, Y, and Z goods. Can you point me to somebody who has the best prices? And they might give you a list of places that sell it, and then you can go look into those as well. Next is brand. Does this brand matter? For some things, absolutely, brand matters. So I'm not trying to say that brand never matters. But for things like flour, sugar, does the brand matter? Again, if it does, great, no problem, move on, skip it. But if it doesn't matter, you can often find better prices for just as good of quality goods if you switch to an off-brand. Speaking of quality, that's the next one. I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for quality in your ingredients. That's not what I'm saying here. However, the question that you can ask yourself for this one is, am I buying the Porsche when a Civic would do? And I'm just going to leave that there. Do I need to buy the best version of this ingredient? Or is there another one that is just going to get me from A to B just as well? The next one is, how much work does this take me? So for instance, I'll give you an example from my shop. We actually decided that we didn't want to prep any sandwiches. And we were buying frozen sandwiches from a manufacturer. and they would send us a frozen box. We'd put it in the freezer, and then we'd thaw them day by day as we were going to use them, and then we would warm them and serve them. We thought that would save us a lot of time. And so we were paying more for the cost of goods because we had less time involved that we were spending putting things together. The more we thought about that, we said, this is too expensive. Instead of going to look for, can someone else do this for us? We looked at what it would cost for us to do it. And it took our cost of goods on those breakfast sandwiches from about $4 a piece down to about $1.50 a piece. And so then the question becomes, is it worth $2.50 per sandwich for us to assemble those ourselves? And we worked out a process where we can assemble 10, 20, 50 at a time, and then still have a similar process in the front of house as we did before with the frozen ones. Hands down, that's a better situation for us because we're saving $2.50 per sandwich and only spending a little bit of time assembling everything because we can do them in bulk. And so that worked out really well for us. Now, as you answer all of those questions, what I want you to keep in mind is don't ignore small savings on things that you use a lot. If I can get vanilla syrup for 1 cent per pump less than what it was charging, would that be worth it to me? With as much vanilla syrup as we go through at my shop, it absolutely is worth it to save a penny per pump because we go through thousands and thousands and thousands of pumps per year. And so that adds up. Now, step 3. Once you've identified where your cost of goods is coming from, each individual ingredient, how much they are and how much they go into each item, then you've looked at each one of those ingredients and said, are there any other ways that I can save money with this? You've investigated all of those options. Now it's time to implement. And I made this its own step. It's very short, but not easy for everybody. And so I put it in its own step because I want to highlight that change is hard. And this step allows you to look at it and say, is this change worth it? Something else to consider as you're thinking about, is it worth it to change, is the question, if I change this, will it have other impacts? And where this comes up a lot, and 2 of the questions are the amount. If I buy more of these at one time, where am I gonna put them? Do I have to get a storage space? Do I have to lease more space? Because if there's more money associated that way, maybe there's not enough savings there for that. Or maybe there is, but it's worth considering. And then the other side of it is, if you're switching the source, what happens to the other things that you are getting from that supplier? So to give you an example, when we first opened, we were getting a lot of things brought in on a refrigerated truck, and they came weekly, and they brought us our milk, they brought the frozen sandwiches, they brought just a whole lot of stuff that needed to be refrigerated, which was the point of having the refrigerated truck come. And then the more we got into it and the more times we went through this process and decided that we wanted to make our own sandwiches and we were gonna buy milk from somewhere else, we started to get a smaller and smaller shipment each week to the point where now we couldn't get it each week. They had to come every other week or once a month. And so that becomes part of this question here, do I change? For us, just the savings on milk alone was well worth the change. And so that worked out for us, but we had to ask that question. If we take the milk out of this order, how's that going to impact our cash flow? And so those kinds of questions come up when you are looking at, is it time to implement this change? Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I was going to show you how you can use this same process to identify menu item profitability before you even put it on your menu. And honestly, it's the same as this process. You start by identifying your recipe and the ingredients that go into it and how much each one costs you to make. And then, like at the bottom there in Boost, you can see the cost of goods for that item before it ever hits your menu. You don't have to worry about, was I spending more to make it than I made on it when I sold it, because you'll have that data right in front of you. If you run through the recipe and your cost of goods is 80% of what you can sell it for, with labor added onto that, with your rent expense, your utilities, your other fixed costs, it's probably not going to be worth it. But if, like my flavored latte, it's 10, 15%, 20%, maybe it is. Every restaurant's different, so I don't know what those numbers are that you're targeting, but this allows you to look at it ahead of time and say, does this still make sense? At this point in the video, you may be thinking to yourself, that all sounds great, but I don't have enough time to get started. And I totally get that. I have over 100 menu items at my shop, and there's 3 sizes for most of them, so we're talking 250 to 300 different recipes that I have to go in and I have to figure out cost of goods for. Boost helps with that because I put my ingredients in and then I just tell it how much and it does all the math for me. Excel can do that once you get a spreadsheet set up, but in the end, I still have to go put it all in, right? So if that seems daunting, go to your point of sale system, run a report over the last couple of months and look at your top 5 sales items per item. And I say per item, not per revenue, because I want to look at how many of these are you selling and pull the top 5 out of there. Do this process on those 5. That's it. Do the whole process 5 times and just see what happens. Cost of goods is instrumental in your ability to make a profit as a restaurant. Don't ignore it. Don't let it get away from you. Don't just look back and say, shoot, that could have been better if you're doing it in arrears right now, like we talked about at the beginning. Grab it by the horns and use it to your advantage and go make some money.